Welcome. You're watching The Retirement Architect. I'm Mark Henry, your co-host, and of course, I'm joined today with David Reyes, the architect himself. And David, thanks for having me on the show again. I'm very excited to step in. I'm happy to do it. But, you know, for the viewing audience, if you've never watched before, you're in for a treat. This is not a scripted show. We're going to talk about a lot of tough subjects. But right out of the gate, David, you know, I have notes, but there's really no notes. A blank piece of paper and the name and phone number for an amazing offer we'll have soon. But right now, I got to tell you, right before we started, I'm upset. Let me just clear it up. So if you're looking for a little activity on television live, you're going to get it right now. You kind of popped my bubble. I mean, I am a biblical person. I'm trying to live a biblical lifestyle, be a good steward of my assets, and I try to live, as I can, a debt-free lifestyle. Yep. So I've had my home paid for. It is the one I currently have is not, and we can talk more about that later, but that's not where you upset me. You know where you did this.
I know. Yep.
And he said, well, you know, Mark, you're really leading a debt-free lifestyle. I said, absolutely. I said, I'm that kind of guy. I was all, you know, I was sitting up a little straight in my chair. My hair was growing back. Yep. I was excited. And he said, well, tell me about your 401 and your IRAs.
That's right.
And I said, I was bragging, you know, because I've done well. And you said, you have some of the worst kind of debt you could have, Mark. And I said, did you not hear what I said? Tell me about it.
A three-letter word, right?
Yeah, well, I want to start with that because it just really impacted me.
Yep.
And I think it will the people watching. So tell me why I have the worst kind of debt I could have.
Well, because you got debt that you got the old taxes, right? And that little pent up gains there that'll eventually get paid out. I mean, most retirees are going to pay, you know, 20, 30, 40% tax or more, especially when they pass. And a lot of people don't realize all that money in 401ks and IRAs is just sitting there, and you got a little business partner, Uncle Sam, that's going to take, you know, up to half. It depends upon how much you have and how much you have when you pass. And so, you know, that's my partner's a CPA. Tax planning has been a big part of our practice for, you know, the old saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Right.
Same thing in retirement. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, you know.
Well, and I think people sometimes confuse tax planning with tax preparation.
Yep.
Because you don't prepare the taxes. They got different companies can do that. You plan for the taxes.
Yep.
And so what David told me that honestly kind of upset me is he told me I had debt on my IRAs, and I thought, no, they're individual retirement accounts. I don't have any debt. That's my money.
Yep.
And I don't have control over those accounts, do I?
No, sir. And especially now, I mean, what's happening with taxes? The Biden administration is raising taxes. It always starts the tax plan. The tax they're talking about now. You know, it's like 1/10 of the tax needed.
Right.
I forget the numbers, but I won't bore you with them. It's bad. So you can't tax people that make $400,000 or more and reduce deficits and pay for stuff. You have to tax the middle class, and it will happen eventually if that, you know, we were talking already with basically, you know, people getting paid to stay home. You know, now you have the government's competing with employers for wages now.
Right.
A whole other problem, and companies are having issues with hiring.
Yeah,
because they get paid more money. I think it's through September, isn't it?
Yes.
As far as the.
And I know many people that are struggling with that.
Right.
They need to hire workers and having a hard time getting them.
Yep. Yeah.
So when I think about that, this debt we talk about on a 401, on my IRA, it's this idea that, you know, somebody thinks they look at their statement, they see $1 million, and how much of it is really theirs? And you said, well, Mark, tell me what the tax code is going to be in 5 years.
Exactly.
Or 10 years, and I'll tell you how much of that is theirs.
Yep.
And so it kind of distorts what I really think I'm worth. I mean, I can fill out the financial statement and put all this down, but I guess I'm actually lying because part of that money must be paid to the greatest collection agency in the world.
Right.
The IRS. Right.
Even we go back to 1980s taxes, Mark, you're talking double tax. You're talking 30, 40% taxes, really. I mean, we're still in the lowest tax brackets we've ever had. And so, you know, there's ways that we work with clients all the time. We want to get those monies out of these unfavorable tax positions and get them moved into more tax favorable.
Right.
Even if you have to pay the tax today, fine. But at least we know what that is. At least we now don't have to pay tax in the future. You know, it's the old acorn and the oak tree, right? You know, we already have to pay tax on the oak tree, but maybe we can create a new acorn, right? For not only ourselves for later, but also for our kids. So our kids can have, you know, the benefit of that money.
What struck me was, and they said I was upset, maybe that was the wrong word to use, but I was educated. It means I'm going to have to make changes.
Yep.
And I get that. But you asked me very specifically, Mark, would you rather pay tax on the seed
Yep.
or the harvest? And you said, working with us, the harvest is most likely going to be quite a bit bigger. So why don't you pay tax on the seed?
Yep.
And I think that resonated with me because I understand that. So if you can, why aren't the big box firms that I hear about, why don't they address this with their clients?
Well, I mean, the honest truth is they're just not usually equipped. They have not been trained in that area, don't have the experience of that, and so and compliance reasons. They just can't. Can't give tax advice. Well, if you can't give somebody advice on saving taxes, and you're an advisor helping someone with retirement planning,
are you really an advisor?
Exactly, and so we are. And so it's something that, again, my partner's CPA. We have CPAs we work with. We have our own in-house attorneys, estate plan attorneys, and so yeah, we're giving advice with this, and we'll seek advice as we need to seek advice.
I don't know how you could have be the retirement architect and leave something that you've convinced me could be one of the biggest issues with my current plan.
Yep.
Or lack of current plan, which is taxes.
That's right.
I mean, do you really have a financial partner if they will not discuss tax today and future tax obligations?
No, it's too big of an unknown. It's too big of a whammy, so to speak, in the future. And so, especially if there's planning today to mitigate that.
Yeah.
My goal for a client, if you have $1 million, if I can move $500,000 of that into tax favorable investments and pay the tax now, and have a game plan to do that, and get rid of that debt, that burden of the IRS, not only for yourself but also for your kids, that's a big deal. And we do it. We do planning for it. It's a tax bucket. What's willing to pay today to create a plan to where we don't have the tax tomorrow. So that's a big part of our practice.
No, it sounds like a big part. And so when I think about it, like a traditional stockbroker, and I guess you're not a stockbroker, and your team's not, correct?
No.
And that's just so different for me because typically they would sit down in a consultation meeting, look at what they're doing and say, hey, let's do this, this, and this, and you're going to make way more money. And I have yet, all the time we've been together, had you tell me that.
Yeah, no, that's not how we make it. Most of our clients have, like I said, already won the game. It's the how do we make that money last, like you said, to get the paycheck we want to replace. It's a totally different way to manage money. And unfortunately, for a lot of clients, it's a lot because we're just switching gears, and they've not been taught that. They're just, so the advisor they had before, the plan they did before is what they think. There's an old saying too, what got you to where you're at today is not necessarily going to get you where you want to go in the future. So it definitely is a transition for people, and that's why they got to be educated. They have to be taught what are the opportunities to do that, to protect the capital, to create the cash flow, to mitigate the taxes. These are all threats, inflation. These are all things that are attacking clients' portfolios and inhibit them to have the ability not only just to survive and thrive in retirement, but to have the peace of mind. Yeah. And the key part is I'm not going to stress about it because we have a plan. Right? And so, because I can't have, our 200 clients, what do we have, that are all stressed out about their money all the time, because guess what? I'm going to be stressed. So we don't have stress. We're going to create a plan, protect the capital, focus on creating cash flow, and growing the capital in that order. Again, the most amount of income, least amount of risk, and never run out of money. Most amount of income, least amount of risk, and never run out of money. So that's how we manage clients' assets.
I'm sitting here going, that's what I want.
Yeah.
The most amount of income, right? The least amount of risk. I have to take some, I get that.
Yep.
And what else?
And never run out of money.
And never run out of money. Well, that's the number one rule, isn't it?
Exactly.
You always got to follow the number one rule. Don't run out.
That's right.
Now, that part I know for sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We got to get these phone lines open. This is an amazing opportunity David's got for you, legitimately. Listen, here's the thing. This is going to be 100% complimentary. Do you know what that means? It means you leave your checkbook at home. There's nothing for sale. You get to call now, right now, 866-739-3775. Don't put it off. 866-739-3775. If you've saved $250,000 or more, and of course more is always better, this is for you. An opportunity to sit down with the team and get your very own retirement blueprint. It's got to be $1,000, $1,500 value. They're giving it away absolutely complimentary with no obligations. Well, there's actually one obligation. You have to right now pick up the phone and call 866-739-3775. Stay tuned. We've got a whole lot more coming up with the Retirement Architect.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to the Retirement Architect. I'm your co-host, Mark Henry, and of course, we're joined with the architect himself, David Reyes. David, this has been very enlightening for me. You've pushed a few of my buttons talking about debt that I didn't even know I had.
Right.
But you weren't doing it to scare me.
No.
You were doing it to help me, to educate me, to empower me. So it's a message of hope. Would that be the right way to say it?
I think so. I would say facts first, opinion second, right? If I were
like
sitting
that.
across from me, here's the fact, here's what we got.
Right.
Here's how you've done, here's the cost, here's the taxes, here's what we can do about it.
Okay. Let's talk about that then.
Go
So
ahead.
when you talk about this blueprint, this financial plan, some people call it, you call it a blueprint because you're an architect. I get this.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll put you on the spot now. This is
All right.
unscripted.
No problem.
What would you say would be, I know there's so many parts of it, a lot, because I've seen it. What's the top 3 that have to be included in a retirement plan, a blueprint?
Lifetime income, number one. Number
Okay.
one, lifetime
I'm writing
income.
this down,
Lifetime income. And it goes back to the beginning with the end in mind. I read a book a long time ago by Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
I know it
Read
very
when I was
well.
21 years old, most powerful book I ever wrote.
I agree 100%.
And one of the 7 habits is to begin with the end in mind. And he talks about your eulogy, right?
true.
But I'm not talking about your eulogy. I'm talking about your life
It's
after.
actually number 2 of the 7 habits.
Is it number 2?
Yep.
Yeah. But the fact is, our begin with the end in mind is really begin with the new beginning in mind, which is retirement.
Okay.
But that end is end of working. And so we have to focus on cash flow. Everything revolves around cash flow. I don't care what you're doing. So you cannot build a plan for somebody without beginning with cash flow. Because then you can determine if their portfolio is too risky, if it's not risky, and if they need more equities, they need other assets. But the fact is that if we can't solve that number one problem, because that's going to tell them, can I retire? Can I have the lifestyle that I want? Should I wait 2 more years?
Right.
Should I invest differently? So that's where you have to start. So number one is cash flow. And really what happens when you deduce that is what's the risk? What's the fees? What's the income of the current portfolio? What are the taxes that are embedded in the distributions that you have to take?
So number 1's lifetime income.
Number one.
Number 1, cash flow.
Cash flow.
I love
Cash
it.
flow. Cash flow.
All right. Number 2, would that be the risk we're taking to achieve the cash flow?
That's right. Yep. Because I look at cash flow, Mark, differently than a lot of advisors do. And I know this from experience because I see so many clients.
Sure.
Is that most, and this is important because people care about this, is that most advisory firms that are doing any type of retirement plan, all they're doing is spending down capital. They're using a hypothetical rate of return and hoping that the market and bond market and stock market cooperate. Well, that's crazy.
So yeah, you've taught me about this. This part we did talk about. I think it's important to let the viewers know.
Yep.
When you're basing a plan off of an average return, you told me I'm setting myself up for failure.
Yep.
And I want them to hear why you said that, because this was brilliant. You said, Mark, if you have $1 million and the market falls, I think you said 20%, you gave me easy math. And then the market goes up 20%. So your portfolio falls 20, your portfolio goes up 20. Your 2-year average return is 0.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I get that. And you said, but Mark, what's your real return? And I want you to do this math yourself on air right now. You had $1 million, you lost 20%.
Yep.
You have 800,000. 800,000 just made 20%.
Yeah.
And my eyes just blew up when you made me
lost
do
4%.
this.
You're down.
I'm
You're down $4,000.
But my 2-year average return is 0.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, this is what you told me. You said, what if I take money out when it's down?
Exactly.
Now what's happened?
That's right.
I'm not down
That's right.
4% anymore, am I?
Yeah.
What if I took 5% out to live on?
Right. You're down
Those
more.
2 years. I took 5 and 5 plus a 4% down. I'm 14% down.
We haven't talked about inflation yet, either, have we? Right? And then, so then we, so it's
Cash flow. No
cash
one's
flow.
told me.
Well,
way
here's
you
the one
say
thing
it.
and point I want to make, Mark, is that there's a difference between income. See, you buy a piece of real estate, you get income because it's a rental property, let's say, right? That's people understand cash flow. We're not selling a piece of the house, the one bedroom, to create income.
Right.
That's how most advisors are doing planning. They're selling part of the portfolio. That's not cash flow. Cash flow is I want guaranteed lifetime income from annuity products that we'll use, real estate, dividend stocks, because I can build a portfolio where I don't spend down any capital. Because we don't know what future inflation, tax are going to look like, healthcare costs. So I want to keep, at a minimum, I want the portfolio to stay flat. And I just want cash flow. I don't want to be selling the portfolio, just the way we do things. In a perfect world for us, our clients' assets are going up over time. And believe it or not, that's what my bogey, that is my baseline.
David,
and so,
you said something. I don't want to cut you off, but you said something that I want you to repeat.
Go ahead.
I buy a house for a rental property.
Yeah.
And I receive income from it. As long as they pay the rent, I get the income, correct?
All right. Yep.
But I didn't sell one of the 3 bedrooms to get it.
That's right.
That's the most powerful statement I think I've ever had an advisor, an architect tell me. Because that makes sense to me. A traditional advisor, one that just focuses on the basics parts of buying and selling stocks and bonds, to get you cash flow, they're liquidating your portfolio daily to put that money in your hands.
That's right. It's dangerous.
Did you hear this? This is so important right now. Has your current advisor built you a plan that requires you to sell one of the bedrooms of the house
That's right.
to live?
That's right.
I love that. I think that's one of the smartest things I've ever been told.
Yep.
That's amazing. So when you design this blueprint, number 1, cash flow. Number 2, risk.
Yep.
Now, how do you decide what a client should be taking risk-wise? Do you decide for them?
I'm going to educate them first on the risk they're taking, number 1, because most people don't. But they're currently taking.
Okay.
We have to diagnose. We have to deal with, again, the facts again. Here's what you own. Here's what it does. Here's how well it's done, and here's how much cash flow it's producing. Income, the rental property, not how much we sell. Income's being produced. The average is 1.5%. We need about 4 to 5% cash flow, just so you know, to have a good retirement. That's what we shoot for. We have a whole process called the 5% solution, but we'll talk about that another show. But the fact is that we got to go through the risk assessment, because I want the most amount of income, least amount of risk. I want to take no risk.
Right.
If I can solve the problem and put somebody in a no risk guaranteed asset for the rest of their life, and that solved the problem, and they're okay with that, we've done that.
Wow.
We've done that. So it's kind of a dance between us and the client, because I got to figure out what they want. But we want the least amount of risk. If you're relying on the stock market and you're worried you're white knuckling it in March of last year, then you don't have a plan. That's the problem.
Or you don't have a good one.
No, you're on the non-planned plan, right? And so, I got a broker friend of mine, I think he was getting 100 phone calls a day. Literally, he was telling me that during COVID, during the COVID crash, I call it, when the market dropped 35% in 30 days. Yeah. That's outrageous.
Right.
So the fact is, if you look at money that way, where we're going to look at cash flow first, risk second, right, and marry those two first, then the portfolio just kind of shows itself. Here's what we can do. Here's the least amount of risk. Here's we want a little more volatility, a little more equities usually. Yeah. But again, most firms are not dealing in the dynamics of all those asset classes, whether they're dealing with guaranteed products, with annuities, stocks, dividend funds, specifically dividend stocks, real estate. And I think, quite frankly, you need to have access and have expertise in all those areas to build a plan, because real estate can be great. People love real estate. What if you can get a 5 or 6% income and own an asset that has a chance of going up over time, but has no correlation to the stock market?
I like that.
Right? Just like an annuity can be an option as well.
Randy, speaking of me here, I got to cut you off.
Go.
But I didn't want to. I kept going, I'm coming, Randy, I'm coming. I couldn't say that, but I was thinking that way. But we got to go to break. Listen, this is powerful. This is powerful stuff. There was a song that said that once. Here's the phone number. 866-739-3775. Again, that number, 866-739-3775. You know you need this. You've been procrastinating. You know you don't currently have a written blueprint to success. You don't have that. You know you need it. Well, now's the time to get it. If you've saved $250,000 or more for retirement, this is for you. David and his team have agreed to take the next 10 callers if you've saved $250,000 or more for retirement, and they will create your very own, not some cookie cutter plan, your very own blueprint Retirement Blueprint, and it's 100% complimentary. David has said it, leave your checkbook at home, but you have to do one thing. Pick up the phone right now and dial 866-739-3775. Stay tuned. We have a whole lot more coming up with the Retirement Architect.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Retirement Architect. I'm your co-host, Mark Henry, and that means I'm with the architect himself, David Reyes. David, this show has flown by, but we're going to need more time. You have to talk to the networks because we need more time. The call volume has been incredible. If you've had trouble getting through, and I'm not even asking for permission on this one, David, we're going to hold the phone lines open for an extra hour today.
Okay.
It's necessary. They're trying to get in. They want to get in. Operators are standing by. Don't be discouraged. But you are going to have to keep calling because we got to get you in. This is important stuff. But you were talking about the top 3 things in a retirement plan or a blueprint. Mm-hmm. But I want to ask you a question. You know, you talked about discovery, this idea of the facts. I like facts. And so, not opinions.
Yes.
I don't want my neighbor telling me what I need to do with my money. I want facts.
Yep.
So when people come in, they come in for that first time, they bring their statements, the tax returns and all that stuff and present it to you, and you look them over, and then you come back and give them the facts.
Yep.
How often is it that they currently know why the portfolio is set up the way it is, what it does, what the fees are, maybe what the cost of the portfolio is? How often is it, you know, and I don't hold you to this is live television, but I mean, is it 10%, 20%, 30%? Zero?
Zero.
Really?
Never.
I mean, they can't tell you why the portfolio was built in the manner it is?
I would say you ask a lot of things. So they say, you know what they own, the fees they're paying, basically. And just those two things together, no, never. No. They might have an idea, you know, in the first place, maybe when they first met with the advisor, or they own, we call the boomer portfolio. They own the half stock, half bond portfolio that buys more bonds every year, you know, which is not a good idea. So it's just, that's why we have to spend so much time educating. Because they just don't really know. They have jobs. They have, you know, they're not focused on what the mutual fund they own, what stocks it owns or bonds. Right. They don't know, no. And they really don't care. They care what it does, right? Because am I making money or am I not? But the fact is that it's a lot different, as we talked about earlier. That when you start taking distributions, what's inside there's a lot more important. You know, how it reacts to the markets is much more important. So, you know, the dynamics are different, and so just that education process, we spend a whole meeting just on what they have. Here's the fees. Here's the risk. Here's what you own. Here's why you might have owned it. Wow. Here's some opportunities to improve upon that. And because if clients have something that we really like, of course, we're going to keep it. You know, that's not generally the case. I will tell you the most times we'll look at keeping part of the portfolio would be taxes, because let's say they owned Apple stock for the last 20 years. Right. We're not just going to randomly go sell Apple stock. Right now, if it's a requirement to build the plan properly, then we have to start talking about how we can mitigate those taxes. But if there's especially assets that are tax infested, so to speak, and we don't want to just, because a lot of advisors, if they're not a fiduciary, I've seen this happen. If they're just don't have a fiduciary duty, they can just have clients sell the assets and pay the tax and have no liability. If I had a client that had to pay $100,000 in tax because they sold $1 million worth of stock, in Apple, we have a problem. But so the fact is, if we like the asset and the taxes are a problem, then we're just going to leave it. And I'm giving you an example of one of the main reasons we'll keep, as part of the portfolio. Because typically, if they have a traditional mutual fund that owns half stock, half bonds, we're not going to keep it. They don't need me to do that.
Correct. That makes perfect sense.
So that's where the value has to be high. And if a client needs planning, it should be there.
Well, David, we're running out of time. We definitely need more time. But before we go, I know that I would be questioning myself on this. When I think about what your firm offers if you actually take them as a client, I know you don't take everybody. I get that. It's a process.
Yep.
You want to be able to help. I heard you say that. But I know over here with my big box retailer, they do one thing. They sell or buy the stocks and bonds and give me this portfolio, and I know what that costs. Or maybe I don't know what it costs. You've convinced me I might not know.
Yeah.
But when I look at everything you do, whether it's tax planning, building written income planning, guaranteed lifetime income streams, helping them balance, helping them take it out of one bucket, because it seems like all these statements are one bucket of a bunch of the same junk.
Yep.
Versus you're going to build out a plan that has multiple buckets. And you do all this. Can they afford to work with you? This has got to be super expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I will tell you on average, I would say, especially if clients on mutual funds, as most people do, the cost is negligible relative to what they have. Yeah, well, the average cost, according to Barron's, and this is dated a little bit, of a mutual fund is about 3%.
Wow.
So we're less than 3%. How about that?
There you go. I like it already.
Right.
Well, here's the good news, though. They don't have to pay anything to get the blueprint.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Phone lines are open, and David's already agreed to keep them open for quite a while. I know you've had a lot of trouble getting through because the call volume has been incredibly heavy today. And here's why. Because you need this. You may not need to change advisors, but you need to sit down with somebody and get a second opinion to get an actual blueprint showing your success or not. And you need this information. You've procrastinated in doing it. Now is your chance. If you're one of the next 10 callers that call in now, and if you saved, let's say, $250,000 or more, this is for you. They will sit down with you and help you craft your very own customized blueprint. David has given this away absolutely complimentary with no obligations for the next 10 callers. The only thing you actually have to do is pick up the phone and call 866-739-3775. Listen, we hope you found the information useful and helpful, because that's how it's intended. David, I learned something today, a lot actually, and I hope you did too. And we encourage you to follow us online and also next week on the Retirement Architect with David Reyes.
Thanks,
David,
Mark.
thanks for having me on.